Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Showcast, a series of podcast conversations from film festivals and film markets everywhere, presented by The Film Verdict and hosted by yours truly, Matt Micucci. Every year, the International Film Festival Rotterdam in the Netherlands offers a high-quality lineup of carefully selected fiction and documentary feature films, short films, and media art. And with its unique personality, it has quietly influenced the International Film Festival scene at large. The festival's focus is on recent work by new talented filmmakers, whom it also supports through its co-production market Cinemart and other activities. However, there's also room for retrospectives and themed programs. This year's edition was also quite important as it marked the IFFR's full physical return following the years of the pandemic. And I was able to sit down for a chat about it with its director, Vanja Kaludjercic, in the midst of this year's European film market in Berlin. So fire up an Audiotini and listen to the audio waves as they fly through the air. This is the Showcast. Hello, Vanja. Welcome to Berlin.
Hi, Matt. It's nice to see you.
And welcome to the Showcast, actually, I should have said. The Showcast, our wonderful new series of podcast conversations. It's great to have you on, of course, as the director of the IFFR, the International Film Festival Rotterdam, a festival that's close to my heart and that just ended. So it must mean that, you don't need to rest too much because here you are now at Berlin.
Yes, but with a very big sense of relief and joy. So a lot of people come to me and say, hey, you don't look tired at all. But of course, we are exhausted, but also so energized by the success of the festival because we did wait 3 years to have it, in this shape and form. So the sense of relief and gratitude and joy that we can finally again have all these people together in full cinemas is really amazing and rewarding, of course. Yeah.
Let's start off from there because, like you said, obviously the years of the pandemic took their toll on cinema viewing in general, but of course for Rotterdam as well. But this year it returned in full force as a physical event. Yeah. So you mentioned the relief, but what was the reaction from the audience as well as the industry?
Well, this is, of course, one of the things you cannot really fully anticipate. So we have been at the beginning quite conservative in, thinking maybe it will be at 60% of what it was, maybe 70. But in the end, so many screenings were sold out that we were taken by surprise in the most positive sense of the word. So we had a huge attendance in terms of directors as well. So a lot of screenings were really these fantastic combinations that only festivals do. And that is venue sold out, even for a film that is, for instance, in a Tiger competition. The whole cast and crew is there. So you have this moment of excitement that the world premiere is about to start. And then this, buzzing in the audience and shared, of course, with the film crew as well. So in that regard, the engagement was really high, more than we actually expected. So you can also see that the audience itself was hungry to see an event in which so many different communities come together. Also, as you mentioned, and you love IFFR as well, it has such a wonderful, informal atmosphere where everybody sort of is embraced by the festival in the same way. And also next to it, we do a lot of art projects as well. So we do not make such a clear or a strict distinction in which way a cinematic art form takes place. So it can be, of course, in the cinema, and most of the time it is on a big screen, but we also commission work. So we had, of course, a great joy that finally, after 3 years, we could also introduce our commission that we did with Steve McQueen, Sunshine State, which was also presented in a great, beautiful space of Boimerman's Depot. So, in a way, the festival came back in its full splendor and the audience really couldn't wait to be back. Same goes for the directors and the attendance of international guests as well. So, with that regard, we can say finally. Yeah.
Well, that's what we were talking about before we started recording is, the IFFR, the International Film Festival Rotterdam, is a festival that kind of comes, it's more suited to my sensibilities. It's a festival. You go there and it just makes you think about, cinema at large. It kind of broadens the conversation to include other art forms. And I think over the years, it's been, at the forefront of some of the conversations that then were had or continue to be had throughout the years. And we're still having today about VR and possibly also artificial intelligence. Let's just say, someone has never been to the festival though. To you, what are the characteristic traits of the International Film Festival Rotterdam? The ones that really make it stand out among the other ones of the year?
I think it's precisely the atmosphere that everyone comes together in a similar fashion. So we do not make big distinctions if whether you're the first time filmmaker with a short at the festival or you're a big star that already has made, 30 films and are, on awards circuit and things like that. So everybody comes for one reason to the festival because they love what they do. They love cinema. They like discovering cinema and sharing it with others. So it has in a way, it's a very democratic, experience in that regard. And it allows you really to engage with people. It allows you to engage with the audience, the stranger you're sitting next to, you can start a conversation with, or at the bar or in a festival, courtyard, where I'm sure the doula, the heart of the festival. It's really meant for the people to connect as well. Same goes for discussions you can have with the directors at late night, because we all gather in the same space again. So, I remember a Tiger competition filmmaker coming to me beaming with joy and almost tearing up by saying, "Oh, I just ran into first Elise Idol, and then we talked, and then Mathieu Amalric came, and then we could speak for another half an hour, and he was, generously sharing his love for cinema and who knows what else." And this is it. You can really come across everybody. Everybody's open, accessible, and another. So in that regard, creates beautiful memories and really nice experiences, and. It will also show you sides of cinema that perhaps are not very accessible, certainly not in distribution, right? But also not in other festivals as well. So we are really looking with great attention into the countries and that are, have big annual productions, but they're often sort of underrepresented in international festivals. One or two films end up it, but when you look at their annual production and how varied these films are, you think, well, we should do much more than that. So, for instance, countries, we always had great dedication to countries like Japan, for instance. But what we did with Japan 10 years ago, or much more before that, it means something else today, and precisely because of that, Japanese cinema, I feel it's quite underrepresented in the international sphere, and but this is definitely not the case at IFFR, where it's shining as brightly as ever, and in a very diverse forms and shapes. That's the most important thing. So we look at each territory. What does it mean in terms of their film production? What does it mean in their representation in international festivals or distribution? And what can we do, to make it significant for those films at IFFR?
And this is also true of the Cinemart, which is the market at the IFFR, right? The
mother of all markets, as people like to refer it, because it was indeed the first one. And then it became a victim of its own success because it got replicated in
another way in which, the IFFR pioneered the things we do.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's still one of the strongest. I mean, what is fantastic again about IFFR, whether it's in form of supporting a project by presenting it at Cinemart, or supporting it financially via HBF Hubert Bals Fund. Hubert Bals is the founder of the festival. It really gives this sort of stamp, by getting the stamp of IFFR, in the sense it pushes, it has a lot of added value, to be selected at Cinemart or HBF, and it allows projects to really harness incredible amount of interest into their projects in development or production, because HBF can support films in various stages. And Cinemart is, again, carefully selected. It has this kind of boutique type of feeling. Meetings are not useless. So this is one of the things that we really pay great attention to, that once the selection is done, that we sort of make those days when they're present and doing one-on-one meetings, which are really back to back. So it's very intense, that every meeting sort of has a purpose. So there's a lot of tailor-making, approach for really understanding the needs of the project and how best we can, fulfill that during the experience at IFFR. So in that regard, I heard a lot of positive feedback, because, of course, I was running around now in the role of a festival director. I have to run around a lot, mainly introducing and presenting films. So sadly, Cinemart was not something I was very present at, but it's great to be here in Berlin and then listen to producers or sales agents who report and say what it meant to them, and how are they into certain projects and following them and so on. So, yes.
Well, there you go. Now let's get back to the actual festival program then, because that's something that you obviously are quite familiar with, going back and forth, as you said, presenting the films, and of course, kind of compiling the final program there. This is a tough question, but if you were to give an overview of some of the prevailing themes, or maybe even choose some of the films that you think were quite noteworthy that need to be kind of highlighted, I'll leave the floor open to you. I mean, just tell us a little bit about what actually people were able to see or experience at the IFFR in terms of the films, the movies?
Such an unfair question. Maybe we can start by, for instance, focus programs or thematic programs, because there we also pay a lot of attention into sort of choosing those directors or those teams that really, again, are in some way not where they should be in terms of how much we engage with them or how much we talk about them. So one of those was a program we have been working on for 2 years now straight, and it's Shape of Things to Come with a question mark at the end. And it's a thematic program on rising Hindu nationalism in India over the last few decades, right? And for us, it came out of need of what's happening in one of the largest, if not today, the largest, most populated country in the world, very strong in economy, but on a political level, is really governing level is suppressing minorities in ways that are unacceptable. And a lot of filmmakers from India were actually reaching out to us and saying there are themes that we would like to talk about, so on. So actually it really came out of need as well of themes or subjects that these filmmakers wanted to thematize. And what is very interesting about India, it's a country that produces most than any other country on the planet, like over 2,000 feature films a year, which is quite incredible. So it really allows you in a very sort of layered and complex way, because there is so much to choose from, to make an erudite program if you want to make a thematic political, speaking about a certain political situation. And so you can really have a wide selection from films that may be very activist grassroots documentaries to more art house films to popular cinema. So you can really examine certain topics from all different angles and forms of cinema, which is not really possible, I think, in any other country at this moment. So this is the richness that really India can offer. And of course, it's not an easy program. And it had, the government, the Indian government was alarmed and so on, understandably so. But we also think that it's a role of festivals to really tackle into also those very complex political themes as well. And such a program hasn't been done so far. So we felt really compelled to do it. Then next to it, we have an ambition at IFFR to really again think very, very broadly of what cinema is. So of course, as I mentioned before, we go out of the film rooms. We represent artworks, installation, exhibitions, and performances, VR, XR, and so on. But we also think about genres. Want to be really open to all forms of genres as well. So we are very known, of course, for being there, especially through our target competition, for filmmakers that are in a certain niche, more avant-garde, more experimental, really opening, creating their own cinematic voice already from the film number one, and you cannot be so amazed by their visions and can't believe that this is the first film for someone. And we are always there to champion and really push those voices, but it's not the whole IFFR as such. So already 20 or 25 or 30 years ago, we opened up to East Asia and Southeast Asia in ways that towards genre cinema. So this is something that really is emblematic of IFFR, especially if we think about Japan, from Takeshi Kitano to Miike Takashi, who redefined the idea of what genre cinema is to a certain degree in a revolutionary way. So what we're doing now, it's also thinking, okay, we are really known for that, but genre cinema happens everywhere else in the world as well. So let's look on what's happening in France or Spain or Chile, for that matter. So one of the films that really perhaps surprised everybody by far, actually two, both are Kung Fu films. So we can speak about success of Kung Fu as being a form that really, it's a story of a global success, because we had a Kung Fu film from Chile called El Puño del Cóndor and a Kung Fu wuxia fantasy film from Taiwan, which is a hand puppet animation.
Wow.
So I can kind of tell you this is one of the rare festivals in the world where you can catch these kind of films. And I'm
one extreme to the other.
Exactly. And this is the thing, it is a festival where you're going to really get your mind blown, in a way that, can be fantastic, but also you can be, like, what the hell just happened, a bit provoked and so on. But it will create those mind blowing memories, that you're going to come back and think, I went to see this, crazy thing. I don't know what it was, but it was amazing, or I didn't like it, in any way. It certainly will engage you, not leave you, indifferent, so to speak. And we are also trying to present animation in much wider form as well. So animation in the past has been slightly underrepresented, we thought. It's after all, it's not a genre in its own, but it is somehow, it's just a technique, but it is somehow stuck in its own animation world niche, right? So one of the things we decided to do is to do a focus retrospective on a fantastic Japanese superstar. I mean, he really is in the world of animation a superstar, Yuasa Masaki, who really also redefined he pushes the boundaries in cinematic language and anime language a lot, and creates his own world. And every new feature film he makes, it's something that you have to sort of watch a couple of times to, reinterpret things that you see in there. Is incredibly courageous, because he really pushes and tries to reinvent himself with each new film. He became known to the world internationally as for episodic work. That's how he broke out. So we've shown integrally two episodic works, and then 6 feature films that he did. And he also did a masterclass, because we, of course, bringing all these filmmakers, we do talks with them. Steve McQueen gave a wonderful talk, but also Yuasa Masaki, who made drawings especially for the talk. He was reinterpreting the Barton Fink scenes and Brian De Palma films to explain what live action cannot do and what animation in terms of twisting space and time and elasticity of it. So he was trying to explain it through live, by using some emblematic scenes from live action movies we all know. So it was really fantastic. Yeah.
Well, after all that expansive sort of overview of the festival, I'm speechless, and I'm so sorry that I missed it this year in person. But just as a final question, because, again, we should emphasize it's great. We're back in the cinemas, and this was the first in physical return of the IFFR. But despite that, do you think that those previous editions that were online kind of also contributed to some changes, or maybe encouraged other ways of thinking of how a festival can be run, when things are back to the quote unquote normal?
In a certain way, it was very important to be there, despite us, feeling really disappointed as we cannot do it in any other way, but be present online for the communities, because, for the public, especially in the first pandemic, when everything was closed, it was the only access for people to get something that is not, your, more uniform streaming service, kind of work that you can find. So it gave people hope, it gave them opportunity to engage with something. So the first year was really, in that regard, fantastic. And on international level, if there's one silver lining, but I really, for the lack of better, wording or expression, it did reiterate the importance of competitions at IFF. All of a sudden, the whole world had access to tiger competition, to big screen competition, and and because everything else was much smaller, the emphasis was really on those films. And all of a sudden, the coverage was worldwide, and these films might not have been physically shown at IFFR, but they traveled the world, won awards, and so in that regard, it did help us, putting it on the map and saying, okay, this is something we extremely care about. And now when people are, coming to competition programs, are riding on that wave, I think, and that's really good. Yeah. In other ways, for industry activities and for engaging, with the communities throughout the year, we did improve a lot thanks to that. And then also the way how we can offer certain things on our website and so on. All the technology we have sort of developed and invested throughout not only the ways of IFFR, but we grouped with all Dutch film festivals. So ITFA, Cinekit, NFF, to create tools that we can use to this day and just continue improving them. So it did help in many ways. It helped a lot, but there are some things that we developed and that we are still using. But of course, there is nothing else to say than this is the one and only way we want to do it, by bringing everybody together.
For sure. I mentioned that was the last question, but I lied. Because there's one final question I want to ask you. A bonus question for those who paid extra for this podcast here. Now I'm just showing it's free. As far as I know, it's free anyways. It's a new podcast series. I don't know. But anyways, we're at the EFM. So I just want to know about, what you're looking forward to doing here. And is there about your activities basically here in Berlin now? Are you just going to chill out, watch some films and meet people? Or is there something in your mind that you've set out to do, even in Berlin at large? Maybe go to a museum or a landmark or something. I'm
gonna Kiefer has there's an Anton Kiefer exhibition, so I'm definitely gonna do that tomorrow. So I'm trying also to nourish my soul always in very different ways. By the way, so cinema always a priority, but also art is a big part of that. So I already seen one exhibition as well already. And it's great to catch up with people in this a bit more relaxed way for me. I mean, of course, at IFFR, I just spoke to everybody for a max of 10 minutes, and that would be already an incredible amount of time. So here I can have at least a proper sit down with a few sales agents, producers, or people who have been at IFFR, also to recap how the experience was for them. And it's early for us in terms of programming. So now it's really, again, focused on thematic and retrospectives. These ones need to be logged sort of by the time of Cannes. So then we really start with the programming of competitions and new films. But yes, I'm going to, as of Monday on, when things start buying down a bit on the meeting front, just in cinema.
Right.
And I'm going to the Spielberg Honorary Bear event on Tuesday evening.
What are they screening again?
Fablemans. Yeah.
Fablemans, yes. But I think they're screening.
I'm going to see Spielberg. I'm geeking out over that one.
He is, yes. Yeah. Well, possibly a future guest of the IFFR. Who knows, right?
Who knows, yeah.
But in the meantime, I thank you very much for joining us. It's been a delightful conversation.
Well, thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed listening to our conversation with the director of the International Film Festival Rotterdam, Vanja Kaludjercic, and look forward to more episodes of the Showcast from the 2023 Berlin International Film Festival and the European film market coming at you real soon. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to check out the other episodes of the series that have been previously uploaded. Till the next time, this is Matt Micucci signing off. See you soon.